How you doing? I'm Robert Moore.
I'm Amber Moore.
Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. So, question. Is marriage hard?
I don't like this question, but that is partly why I think we're having this conversation. I think it's the wrong question when you're talking about marriage. Because I guess, yes, it's hard. And is there anything in life worth having that's not hard?
Are you one of those people that's like choose your hard?
A little bit, yes.
Okay, that's fair. No, I don't think that's a bad thing.
A little bit, yes, because I think that singleness is hard, single mother hard, divorced hard, like all of those different things.
Why just single mother? Single dads?
Oh,
hard.
Yeah, I'm just sorry. I was just thinking. Okay. But I mean, I think it's important to have the conversation about how marriage is hard, because I feel like I think people say marriage is hard, and then you get into marriage and it's like, wait a minute, this is when they're saying hard, this is not how I thought it was going to be hard, or this is not really. I don't know if you can ever know all of the hard in marriage, but I think that a hard in a marriage is very different than say like hard in like getting fit, right? Like it's like, you know.
So that's why I asked you, is marriage hard?
I hate this answer.
I feel like you're running around the question and you're trying to like avoid like,
because I don't want to
and I'm not saying that there has to be like a yes, no. I'm saying like in is marriage hard? You can start with yes. You can start with no. Actually, you can start with a yes and no.
I would say yes, it is hard.
Okay.
But I don't think marriage is hard.
Oh, here she goes with these voices. Like, depending on how you say it, that's what it means. If it's like marriage is hard.
But there is connotations and meanings to like if I say I'm stressed or I am stressed, that definitely signifies two different meanings. No?
Okay.
Let me ask you the question
Sidebar,
though. Is
marriage Hold on real quick. Just because this is something you don't know about us. So what I've learned about my wife is that it's not what I say sometimes. It's the tone in which I say it. And sometimes my tone could literally be like, hey, look, are we leaving or not? And she'd be like, I mean, gosh, you're just rushing me, like coming in here, are we leaving or not? And I'd be like, wow, okay. I'm certain I didn't say it that way, but gosh, like if that's how you heard it, man, what the heck? Either there's something wrong with my voice box or there's something wrong with your ears, but regardless, this is my life. So back to the question, is marriage hard? Is marriage hard? I had to throw that sidebar. Like they won't understand. I had to. I
think tone is very important. How you say it is very important. And I also think sometimes there is sometimes a lead up to what you're saying that when you're saying it, it's heard in a different way.
I think by the time I answer this question, my answer might be different. But we'll see. We'll see.
All right. Well, is marriage hard?
No, it's still on.
I'm asking you.
Okay. Since you asked me, yes and no. Yes, marriage is hard if you are currently. You know what? Let me say this.
See, it's a hard question.
I think every relationship in your life will be hard if the relationship with the prior relationships you have had with yourself and that others have had with you have created an environment and experiences that make you believe, now that you're seeing all relationships through the lenses of your past, that all relationships will be hard. So that those past relationships can in a way keep you out of marriage, or allow you to walk into marriage already with an expectation that it's maybe not going to work. It's not going to last long. And I say that because I'm thinking about my own experiences of like, I walked into marriage with an out already. I already had my get out of jail card because I believed that all relationships were hard. And when they get hard, I could just leave.
I would say you said something in there that kind of like a light bulb went off. I feel like our expectations make marriage hard.
Ooh, come on.
And I don't necessarily mean only our personal expectations. So I saw something on social media recently, and I actually shared it with you. And it was like, and I might misquote it. I don't have my phone with me. But he posted, it was a quote, and it said, happily married people, they don't broadcast it, or they don't say it because the guy would be considered a simp. Is that what they're called? Simp? Is that right?
I don't know. I've never been called a simp before.
Do you know what that is?
Yes, I know what a simp is. I've heard of simps. Simps are where people like to
like you're weak.
Well, not even weak. It's just it's a way of calling a man, because I hear it more for men.
It is
that he's
correct.
He's nothing like all the rest because he does things out of love. He showers his wife with love. He does things that a lot of other men are
not a positive thing, though.
No. It's actually, depending on who gives it and based on the people who I have heard being titled a simp, I want to be a simp.
Right. Okay.
I want to be a simp.
But that's not, culturally speaking, that is not considered a good thing.
I don't know what it was before. I'll be honest with you. I don't know what simp meant before I started hearing guys call guys simps. And when I understood how they were categorizing them to say, oh yeah, you're a simp, I was like, oh shoot, then I want to be a simp. Sign me up to be a simp.
So basically it said, you're either, for a man, you're either a simp, or a girl, for a female, you're a pick me.
Okay.
So I say that in the context of expectations. Like, I think culturally we can have some expectations about what it's supposed to be. Mm-hmm. I think from personal experience, whether it's our childhood, our parents' relationships, or even like you were saying, our own previous relationships, that I think our expectations make marriage hard.
Come on. Listen. Go ahead. Continue.
No, you're fine.
Continue. I love where you're going with this. Go.
No, you're fine. Go ahead.
No. It's on you.
No, I think I'll only speak for me. I think there was a level, I almost expected marriage to be hard. And so because of that, it was like I allowed things that should not have been allowed in our marriage, because it was like, well, this is supposed to be hard. So I had an expectation, because I had seen a very, very difficult and very, very contentious marriage, right? Mm-hmm. And it didn't work out, but I still knew like, hey, there's a lot of hard in marriage. Mm-hmm. And so I didn't come in with roses. I didn't come in with like rose-colored glasses of how great this was going to be. It was almost like, no, I've got to fight for it and I got to make it work. And that was just as unhealthy as someone who comes into a marriage and says, oh, well, it's all going to be roses.
Yeah.
This is the love of my life. We're going to be like, this is how it's going to be forever.
For sure.
And so I think our expectations create a level of, instead of coming into a marriage saying, I don't know what to expect. I don't know how to prepare for this. I don't know what this is going to look like in a year or two. What I do know is I'm committing to this. And then you and your partner work out, whether it be just with one another, with people, I would probably argue you probably need a good community around you as well, to work out like what your expectations are in a marriage.
Got it.
or for your marriage.
Got it.
Because I do think expectations are like where we die.
Yeah. Okay. So I wasn't going to go in that direction, but expectations I think are a vital part to the health of any marriage. Matter of fact, I remember when I started studying why divorces happen, and most people, they always try to throw on the top of the chart that it's finances. And I heard a person say this one time, and I thought he was spot on. And so ever since then, I have echoed this. I have also continued to evolve the understanding of it to say that marriages are hard and divorces happen because of unmet expectations. And when I say unmet expectations, I don't think that there's anything wrong with coming in with expectations. But if you're the only person that knows those expectations, if you're the only person who's aware of those expectations, then that doesn't help me much. And I look at it even from a job standpoint of like, if I start a job and my manager stops by the first day and says, "Hey, look, just do a great job." I'm like, "Hey, no problem." And he walks away and I'm like, "Okay, wait, what does he want me to do a great job on?"
Right.
Then he has high expectations of me doing a great job, but he has not explained to me what his expectations of what he wants me to do a great job in to me yet. So I can try to figure that out, but that goes back to like, I'm trying to read his mind of what he's expecting, and vice versa. When you come into a relationship, I think we all have an expectation, even if it's crazy, even if it's far out there, even if it's Disney. It's like, but if you don't relay that expectation of that you're expecting to have this aerial life under the sea, then, and I don't have the opportunity to come back to you and say, "Okay, so I don't know if that's going to work because I don't know how to swim." Then no, seriously. Like no, I'm making this a little comical, but I'm like, I'm
I just
being
like
honest.
how you really committed to the analogy.
But that it's like, then we are already off because you keep trying to drag me to the beach and I keep putting on these vests, not even wanting to go in the water, but just like I put the vest on because I'm scared already.
Yeah, I'm definitely not saying you shouldn't have expectations, but I think what you're saying, the uncommunicated expectations, I think is what makes marriage exponentially harder. I think coexisting with a person, coexisting with yourself, your own self relationship is hard, right? Like we have relationships, like you said, all relationships are our relationship with ourselves are hard, right?
I think it starts there.
But I mean, I'm saying that to say like cohabitating with any person is going to be,
roommates.
Yeah, right. Yeah, roommates. Sometimes those are worse. But I think when you have expectations that you haven't communicated, or when you have expectations that you have communicated and that person has kind of gone along with them and has not been honest about where their expectations are or what they feel like they can and can't meet. Because I also don't believe marriage is, oh, here's my expectations, I want you to meet all these, check off the list.
For sure.
I mean, that's not healthy either. Because then it just becomes a very extreme and unhealthy, codependent, like people-pleasing relationship.
Well, especially if I decide that I can't meet those, but I'm going to try at all costs, like that becomes very unhealthy because you don't know what it's taking out of that person to meet expectations that honestly they were never built to meet. Like that, you got the wrong person to try to meet those.
Right. Like who's to say that? I think I think we all could do this. Like I don't know if men do this. I know women do this, right? They have their list of like, these are the things that this is what I'm looking for. And if it doesn't meet at least a certain number of these, like, I mean, it could be, visual or physical. It could be financially. It could be several different things. Mm-hmm. And so I think like if you have a partner who's always trying to keep up with your list, I don't think that's helpful or healthy.
Well, when you say keep up with the list, meaning like they're not already, because like I think there's different types of lists. I think there's a list of like, this is what I'm expecting. Like, so I'm watching you to see if you even meet my list before we even go to.
But like with dating apps nowadays, though, you kind of put your list out there.
Yeah, but you have the opportunity to date the person to say, hey, look, I'm just curious. What do you think about this?
Yeah.
Hey, look, what do you like? And ooh, okay, we're not gonna go that deep today. But like, yes, I believe there is so much that in some ways you have the opportunity to say, okay, even if I have a list, which, you know, I'm not gonna go back and forth. I know some people are like, the list is ridiculous, you should throw it away. But then I think there should be there's a level of like, okay, I do have some expectations. I do have certain, and it doesn't it doesn't have to be necessarily like super superficial, but like, it's like I would like if I would, no, I won't do that. I'm sorry. That
I didn't want to know.
Yeah, I was like, ooh, like, let's say if we were to like go back and write a list of what we would expect, but I was like, ooh, that could end really ugly today. But like, if I were to go back and write a list, it's like I can assure you, meeting with you. No.
My list was not met.
Well, let's be real. Our list then, when we met, was way different than our list would be right now.
Oh, for sure.
Like,
but I think you should have expectations in a partner.
No, for sure.
I think you should have expectations in a marriage.
Okay. So wait, are they expectations? Or are they preferences of what, like what gets you into it? What gets you into the relationship? Because I think expectations grow. I think, I might just want a person who has nice teeth to start with. Okay, so cool.
Yeah,
she's checked off the nice teeth.
I'm talking about more like when you're in a marriage. Because I do believe there are only certain scenarios that you can expect in like a marital situation. I think even dating, living together, you just don't run into certain situations.
I don't believe in dating and living together, though.
No, I understand that, but okay. I'm just saying there are people that would be like, well, we've been living. I think there are certain situations and issues that you're just not going to run into.
Right.
Specifically, like you guys decide you're no longer going to be together. For us in North Carolina, we're not a community state. So you and I, if we're just living together, we can just part ways. That's not that you and I don't have that option, right?
Right.
So, you threw me off with that.
Okay. So just for all jokes aside, though,
but
I don't want anybody to ever come to this podcast and be like, "Oh my goodness, these overly religious people with their ways." Like we've messed it all up, and not that we don't ever hold people to a standard now that we are living a certain way.
I don't know if I hold anyone to a standard.
Right.
I think if you, this is going off on a tangent, so I don't know if this matters. I think if you profess certain things, there is a standard you were supposed to hold yourself to, but I'm not supposed to hold anybody to a standard.
Yeah. And I honestly, I'm big on, like, I meet people where they're at, and I don't expect people to be what I don't expect people to fit into a category. I feel like and you know what, I'm learning this more and more every day. That the truth is that as we all walk together this path of like, I want to be more like Christ, that will look different for all of us. But even people who are not walking this path, I am drawn to everybody. So I don't have just like a circle of people who are living life like me. Now, I think I probably find myself around more people who are a lot like I have been in past seasons and now. So I'm
my point of pointing that out is I do think there are certain scenarios that you're not going to encounter unless you are marital, unless you are married.
And so to get back on track, we are talking about, is marriage hard? Period. Not is marriage hard for categories. We're talking about, is marriage hard? Period. It doesn't matter. And the beauty of this is that this is our conversation with each other based on like what we think. This is not the answer, because I feel like this could be like, man, we could open this up to a whole room of people to join in on this conversation with their perspectives and their thoughts. And that's what we do here. We start the conversation for the conversation to continue to go. This conversation shouldn't end. I'm sidebarring from our conversation. I'm talking to everybody here now that this conversation should end here. Like, I think this is a great conversation to even surprise your partner with of, hey, is marriage hard? And really listen.
Yeah, I think when you're asking the question, number one, you have to be ready for the answer.
Yep.
And know that it's not your answer.
It's what?
It's not your answer. Okay. Like the experience that your partner has in your marriage is not the same as yours.
For sure.
Even though you're both living in the same marriage.
Yeah.
They're processing it through different lens. They're hearing different messages. They're hearing different tones.
Fair.
So I think you have to be ready for that part. I also think that for me, having that conversation has been difficult in the past because it somehow felt like a charge against me if it was hard. Because as if it was my job as your wife to make marriage as easy as possible.
Oh, you went there.
So I do think that when we're having a conversation about is marriage hard, in a broad sense, it's easy to say, yes, it's hard. But when your partner sits there and says, yes, it's hard, and then it can feel like, it's making
hard
this
because
hard.
Of you.
Yeah. And so I think talking through what makes marriage hard, I think you have to have this conversation with a little bit of maturity, right? Because it is easy to say.
Emotional intelligence.
Yeah, it is easy to be like, well, yeah, because you do this, this, and this. I can list right now 5 things just today that you've done that have annoyed me, right?
Right.
And
you want to have that? Wait a minute. Did we just jump into that conversation? We all wait. You're just
but I'm not.
Tune in. We have an incredible conversation called "I Love You," but that I will allow her to unpack that stuff. But
no, So I think that you can be encouraged to have the conversation. I think you should, especially if you are, honestly, any point in your marriage. But I think you do have to be ready for the fact that, number one, marriage is hard I would argue probably for everyone at different points. Maybe everyone's not experiencing the same hard right now. But also being ready to hear that and know that it does not mean that I am necessarily supposed to fix it.
Okay. So
for that person,
let's go here with it though. I agree with everything you just said. And the truth of the matter is that even in asking that question, I think it may open the door for somebody to share what they expected versus what they're experiencing and why they had those expectations. Because sometimes hard looks like me saying, yeah, it's hard because it looks nothing like what I expected. You're not meeting my expectations the way I thought you would. And it gives me the opportunity to turn around and say, well, what were your expectations? Because I just thought that I've always been told that as a man, if I go out
right
and I provide and protect, then I've checked off every box for like what makes this marriage easy. So if that's not your expectation or you expect more of me, then maybe I should know that because I've just been told by my grandfather and my father and his father that that I have simple tasks to make the marriage easy, but you're telling me that this marriage is hard and if I'm not emotionally discharged, then the charge that's there is going to like spike the second you say, man, even if you're joking, man, marriage is hard. Wait a minute. I've done everything to make this easy for her.
I also think we could dispel the myth a little bit that hard equals unhappy.
Okay.
Because working out is hard. I was unhappy about it today, so I won't go there. Never mind. Like going to a job, being in certain careers is hard.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure being a brain surgeon is not a cakewalk. Like it's hard, right? I think there is in relationships,
mm-hmm.
there is this belief that if it's hard, then this is not right. And I don't necessarily know. And I think that's where I have the most issue with this conversation. Not our conversation, but like when this conversation gets, because it gets brought up a lot. Marriage is so hard. And I'm not necessarily saying between you and I, we've watched different discussions with like different podcasts, you know, just different stuff. I think there is this I think there's this misalignment of, if your marriage is hard, well, then there's something broken or wrong. And sometimes like marriage is hard because you're fixing things, not fixing, but like you're healing things. Sometimes marriage is hard just because of the outside season that you two are experiencing, right? Like maybe it's a job loss, maybe it's a child loss, maybe it's you know, a family member, like maybe there's something going on. And so I think when we're saying hard, I don't want to be that confused with unhappy. Because even just now, when you were like, if someone were to say, if you go to your partner and you say like, is this marriage or you know, is marriage hard? It doesn't necessarily mean they're going to list all the things you've done wrong. Yeah. And if they're mature, they will be able to, like, I can honestly say that the things that make our marriage hard is really less to do with you and me and more to just do with life. Right? Yeah. For me, not you. I'm saying like, right, like you understand what I'm saying.
It's the things that we experience. It's the things that happen on this journey that sometimes come a part of our life, so it becomes a part of our marriage. Or
even like things that we've experienced as kids. I mean, we talk about this a lot in couples therapy, where it's always like we go back to things that we experienced and realize how much that like that makes this conversation hard because of a conversation or the way in which I was treated in these scenarios. And now this conversation in this scenario for me and you is hard, but it has nothing really to do necessarily with you and not me personally as a person, but what I've experienced.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you say that. Okay. So let's tap into that a little bit, because I know you shared this with me before, and hopefully you're cool with sharing this or talking about this today. And that what was the lens that was painted for you when it came to marriages by your mom? As you kind of,
I will say how I interpreted it. So I am sure someone on this planet had a conversation with my mom that she interpreted it, or I interpreted it different than they did. Marriage, men, you can't live them. You can't live without them.
Okay. So what do you do then?
Right. You tolerate. Right. Oh. And she would never say that. It was just like, men, you can't live with them. You can't live without them. And so what I took from that is you need them, you love them, but you can't depend on them. You can't expect them to come through. If you want something done, you got to do it yourself. Now, my mother was eventually at the age, I think I was 13, she became a single mom. So for the first half of my life with my mom, because my mom passed away when I was 23. So the first half of my life with my mom, it was, a mom and dad. And then once my father left, it was just me and my mom. So I kind of experienced both. But the one that I feel like prevailed was the one of my mom and a single mom. Like you can't depend on men. They don't come through. And I will say that opinion was very well informed for my mom, not just with my dad, but with her experiences with men growing up and things like that. So I say all of that to say I wanted to be in a marriage or in a relationship. I don't know if I really knew I didn't want to be in a marriage. I wanted to be in relationships, but it was this very clear understanding in my world that like, if you didn't come through for me, well, that's just men. So like I said, my expectations were like almost flipped. Like it wasn't, I want a Princess Ariel under the sea. It was like, oh, well, I mean, if you don't ever come underwater with me, I'm down here. So I'm good.
So okay. And the reason I asked you,
I don't think I did good
about
with that.
No. You did great. You did great.
No, I meant with that analogy.
Oh yeah, that was my analogy. Don't try to take my analogies now. So I think even with you sharing that, that's what you came into a relationship that then turned to a marriage. And it's funny. I was listening to somebody talk recently, and they were talking about how, in some relationships, we say that, okay, well, Robert's supposed to be leading this marriage, but he leads us until I feel like he's not doing a good job. And then I just begin to lead, and I don't need to let him know, but just like I recognize that I expected him to fail. According to my expectations, he's failed. So I'm going to start leading now. And that's not something that you've ever voiced to me, but I'm pretty sure based on past experiences.
I don't even think. I mean, not until recently, until we separated and then reconciled. I don't even think I thought of you as a leader.
No, I'm joking.
No, and I don't mean that. It's funny. It sounds bad. As if you didn't know this already. What
if I did? Okay.
It continue. Sounds bad, but there was a very much a.
Sorry. Serious. Serious, Robert. Be serious. Okay.
No, it's fun. I'm just sitting here thinking about it. Like when you said it, I was like, I don't think I ever looked at him to lead, really.
Golly. Well, hey, that's why I've never felt any pressure. I was wondering why this is a pressure-free relationship. She never expect much out of me.
I don't think I did.
Yeah, you good.
Yeah, I don't necessarily think it was like. So this was our first marriage. That's what we like to say. Clearly it was a lot dysfunctional. As far as leading goes, I don't think I thought of you as a leader or even looked to you as a leader. I think and this is going to sound really bad.
Go ahead and hit me. It can't be no worse than what you already did. I mean, like, you just.
No, I just think.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
If I'm being,
say it.
I know, but I'm trying to think of exactly how I felt. I think it was more just you were just an add-on, like you were just here. I don't mean that in a bad way. I like literally. You can't. I couldn't live with you, and
no pressure. I was just here, bro. I'm just here. Like
no, that doesn't.
No, that's
and
fair.
I didn't. Because I didn't have a good reference point for what it meant to be a man,
or even what it looked like.
Oh yeah, I did
actually.
And to like actually have someone lead and what that looked like in a healthy manner. For me, it was safer not to look at you for a leader. And I would say, looking back, it was a safer option. Like I knew enough about life that I could figure this out. That I'm good. Now, that's not to say that I never like depended on you or looked to you for advice. It was just in the sense of now how I look to you to lead. Or I'm learning to look to you to lead in the sense of now I know biblically how I'm called to allow you to lead, not allow you, but like submission and all of that.
That woman submits to her husband. I'm sorry.
That's what I said.
That
That
was the hottest take today. That was the hottest take in this conversation. She submits to her husband.
It's actually something that we are working on because I don't think I think seeing it in a healthy, non-abusive way is not something that I had experienced. Yeah. I've experienced it more now in other like just. From like an outside, but like an internal in the unit, I have not ever experienced that. So no, I don't think I ever looked at you like that. And so when you're saying now and knowing now that
can't wait for it to be my turn.
You can say whatever what do you want to say?
No, just wait. Well,
no, I think so when you're saying like for me, was marriage hard? Well, yeah, I was out here in a relationship defending for myself. Like what nonsense is that? Now, does it make sense? No. Did it?
But you chose. But you chose that. You chose that.
Yes, and I love what our therapist says, and I've heard it from a lot of people. What served me well in one season for protection, for survival, for all of those things is not serving me in this season. And so there was and granted, you were not showing up as a great leader as is.
Wait a minute now. Wait.
No, we can be honest.
Yeah, okay. Well, like you haven't given me a chance to be honest. I'm just getting darts over here. Like I'm a dartboard right now. Like God.
Well, I wasn't submissive at all. So I definitely wasn't doing my part.
Well, you've already admitted that, but dartboard, go ahead.
I guess all I'm saying is I think I was taking a survival map into relationships and marriage that probably served me in like surviving just what I experienced as a child and taking care of myself and making, all of those things. And so it did not serve well in a marriage.
And which made the marriage hard. It made the marriage, I think based on everything you just said, everything that was the perfect punch to make this marriage very hard from your vantage point. We hadn't even discussed mine yet. We're calculating right now. I'm just, all right, I see what she's doing. First
of all, you're proving you're literally being.
I'm joking. It's a joke.
No,
okay. So I would say that, similar to you, I came in with my own expectations. I came in with my own, and I'm not even going to inflate it, but I said this many times to you. I came in believing that marriage wasn't necessary, believing that based on what I had seen, that marriages were bound to fail. And so I already had this mentality of like, we don't have to do this. We're good exactly how we are, because I felt like the commitment and the what marriage required, I did not have. I had not seen. I was not prepared for it, no more than I was prepared to be a father. There was a lot of things that I was winging, and I wasn't ready to wing fatherhood and marriage, both areas that I had never seen and understood from a male perspective. So from a healthy male perspective, right? So I think that just looking back on all of that, I was doing it until it gets hard, and then I was ready to escape it. And in a lot of ways I did check out. I checked out when things got hard, and I ran to other places where I didn't have to check back in, where I could just be single, childless Rob. Literally. Single, childless Rob, living without all the responsibilities of marriage, of everything, because I didn't want to face it, and I didn't know what to do when it got hard, except for leave, except for run, except for escape,
which reinforced my misbelief, not misbelief.
Your insecurities, your dysfunction. So if you haven't taken anything from this sidebar, notice that we were like we had the perfect storm before we ever met each other. That when our storms ran into each other, we couldn't occupy the same space the way we were going. And because we wouldn't talk about it, because we wouldn't have these conversations, because we didn't see therapy even as like, that's something that like people who are like, honestly, back then I used to think therapy was something that you went to when it was falling apart. And for a lot of men, they don't seek therapy until it's falling apart. But no, therapy, honestly, as I look back now and we go now regularly, it's like, oh, no. It keeps the conversation going, and it opens doors, and it alerts you to things that it's like, dang, I never even thought about that, and how that affects you, and how that affects how that's been affecting me for so long. And making me see you a certain way because I held on to this. This is mine, and this is not about you, and this is
I would
my
say,
own stuff.
I would also hot take, I guess. I don't know.
We don't have hot takes here. Joking. Continue. Go on.
I think would be couples therapy is often, in my opinion, this is totally my opinion. I feel like it's more beneficial when you're not in crisis. I think you should seek it when you're in crisis for sure.
Yeah, it's not a hot take.
But
That's a fire
But
take.
the difference in not being in crisis is that we're able. It's like going to your doctor for regular checkups, right? Versus going to the ER. Right? Think about the absolute madness that is the ER and the waiting room and all the ins and outs and the bills that come after, right? Just think about all of that versus.
Well, you're making it like a this or that. What I would say is
I wasn't saying this or that. You were just saying that at that point you only thought that's when people.
Well,
and I think that's a common belief. I for sure think that's a common belief. So I guess I was just more trying to highlight like I think you need it in both. If you are in crisis, for sure, and if you're not in crisis, maybe it's not the worst thing to explore or to think about.
Hey, listen, no, hey, Coach. So I'm gonna say this just because I've okay, I needed to relax before I go there. Listen, I say this with so much love and so much respect, and I don't really walk. I know we talk about these things, and so I'm trying to keep this about us. I know you have no idea where I'm going.
I'm so nervous.
No. It's cool because it's only nervous when it's about you. This is I'm trying to keep this about you. Marriage is hard, but for a lot of us, we make it harder, and then when it gets too hard, we want to scream for help, or we're desperate. You said something about going to the doctor. If I go to the doctor regularly each year, I shouldn't be surprised by certain things.
Right.
If I go to the doctor once every 5 years, I'm going to possibly be shocked by what they tell me that I have just overlooked that happened in year 2 that I waited till year 5 to find out.
Right.
Therapy is not couples therapy, marriage therapy is not something you put on the back burner and in a pinch it's your fourth quarter Hail Mary. I get it's expensive. Divorce is expensive. It's really expensive. Matter of fact, couples therapy is not as expensive as divorce. But the difference is that it's allowing you to grow with the person you actually want to fight for.
Yeah.
So you're going to fight either way.
Yeah.
You're going to fight either way. There's no way around the fight. Where are you fighting from? How are you fighting? Yeah. And is it going to be a fight to now just survive through this person wanting to take everything from you and you're fighting to see who gets the most? Or are you fighting for this person's heart before you realize that they've already walked out? And I fully believe that if you're listening right now, there is nothing wrong with saying, hey, listen, I want to just go and see what this will be like. I want to just go and see. I think we should both go. And I'm talking to men too. Like,
well,
you know
I will say,
like,
so I was going to say this as a caveat, and this is,
I'm sorry.
Very well said. No, this is very
I didn't mean to go here.
Yeah.
Like, it's supposed to be
I feel like
about
this
us.
is very common among women. It is known that women leave emotionally before we leave physically. And so when you have, that is like a very, and apparent, according to statistics, I think women filing for divorce later on in marriage is exponentially more than men. Like it's a significant statistically difference that women later on in life are filing for divorce. And I think it's because a lot of them left emotionally years ago. And so when you're saying that, I think you're right. Like, you sometimes when the crisis is hit and you're going to therapy, which is what happened with you and I. The crisis hit. The crisis had been going on, but the crisis blew up. And
so let's put things in perspective. We fell apart completely.
Correct. But I think my point to that though is, and we didn't in our response. I mean, I tried to be like, let's go to therapy, and you were like, no. So I don't, because I don't think that would have been the answer. I think that was not wrong of you. But what my point is.
Well, baby, hold on. Frame that correctly though, because it's like I said no.
No.
I said no after it was over, and the truth of the matter is at the time, it wasn't and this is just what I begin to realize. I had focused so much on trying to heal us that I was continuing to bring a broken me into something that I was trying to heal. And the truth of the matter is until I focused on me, until I started to deal with I
think in therapy, even in couples therapy, I mean, I have known people who've gone to couples therapy where therapists have looked at them and said, hey, you individually need therapy. And then let's revisit couple therapy. I think it highlights all that. So even if you're not in crisis, I guess going back to your point, like for women specifically, I'm just speaking for women, for women who have left in year 2, but now the crisis has hit year 5 and we're going, that's 3 years that I've been checked out. That's 3 years that I've not really, you haven't had a pulse on me. And so I think it is harder to come back from that. I think it is harder to repair that. And so this is not to say, I think what you said was hit right on the head. Marriage is a fight. I think when you're looking from a spiritual side, it is the Bible says it's the representation of the bride of Christ and the church. And so, or we have the bride of Christ. That's what the church is. And so we're a biblical representation of that. And so I think there is going to be a fight.
Facts.
And so how we fight it, the way in which we fight it will be indicative of the hard.
So okay, you know what? And I'm so glad you said that, because we haven't even really hit on that. In that marriage period, the marriage, the covenant that you have made with a person has immediately put marriage in the hard category, because you made a covenant with God, between you, God, and this other person. And because of that, you have pissed off the enemy.
Because even people who I would argue are not. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I'm sorry. No, you're fine.
I thought
no,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, and even if you're not, there are a lot of people who have marriage ceremonies that are not quote unquote religious, but they still enter into this covenant. Like they have the same vows and things like that. And it's you kind of, you put an X or a mark for the enemy on you just as much.
100%. Whenever I'm speaking, I don't want people to think that I'm just speaking to Christians, Christian marriages or people. No. This goes for any and everybody. I want, if you're listening, and regardless of where you stand, your marriage is under attack. You can be best of friends. You could have been best of buddies. I know I'm not the only person that said it was not this hard when we were just, I know I'm not the only person that said that. Whether I said it out loud or I said it under my breath, I have said that enough times for that to be a reoccurring sitcom in my head of, I know that it wasn't this hard when we were just dating. When we were just dating, we had so much fun. We had so much sex. We had so much good times. It was just so easy. She didn't bother me as much then. It seemed like it was so easy. Yeah. Welcome to the show of know that it's not hard, because Y'all decided to get married. No, it's hard because you have pissed somebody off in getting married. And I know for some people that is like, this sounds ridiculous. Does it?
Well,
does it though?
I also think that, yeah, no, you're right. And to add to that,
this is like, what happened to our conversation? We're supposed to be talking. This turned into it sounds like it turned into a war against, like, this is what I'm so angry about. Like
no, you're the one that's angry. Okay. I'm very calm.
I'm not. Oh, I'm not angry. Not angry.
But no, I do think. I mean, I think that. But then also, I go back to my earlier statement. I think when you get married, expectation shifts regardless of whether you say it, whether you don't say it. When you get married, expectations shift. I have never met a couple that has not been rang true for. When you're dating, and even if you're living together, there are just certain expectations you don't have. I don't know if it is, like I said, I don't know if it's societal. I don't know if it comes from family. I think it can be all the above, right? It comes from everything.
Yeah.
That when you get married, expectations shift. And so the relationship shifts.
Yeah.
And I think when we're not necessarily trying, I think the answer to the question obviously is that yes, marriage is hard.
Okay, wait a minute. Hold on. Before, I was going to say, hold on.
My answer to the question is that marriage is hard.
Okay.
You did ask me that.
No, yeah, I did.
I think that now you made me lose my train of thought. Hold on.
No. Okay, so no. Hold on. Can I jump into your train of thought though? Yes. I did ask you earlier, and I wanted your answer of is marriage hard? And know that your answer may not be like their answer, may not be like my answer, because the truth of the matter is I was about to shift the focus of is marriage hard, or is marriage hard? And the truth of the matter is you could answer yes, it is hard, but I would even say, okay, so to shift the focus of is marriage hard to I don't think it is hard. And this is not being a simp, or I'm not pandering. Just hear me out before you begin to like, is marriage hard? No, it's not hard if when your relationship with yourself is in a place where you're not looking to your partner to do things that you can't do for yourself, then marriage now is about realizing how your helpmate, your husband, your leader can step in and bring strength, can bring assistance, can bring things to a version of you that wants to love your partner as you love yourself. And so I'm always big on I realized way too late that the love your neighbor, love your wife as you love yourself.
Well, that's not what the Bible says.
Well, no, I know. Okay, so biblically correct. Love your neighbor as you love yourself.
Correct. The Bible says love your wife as Christ
loved the church. Yes.
Different.
Thank you. Well, the truth of the matter is I never knew how Christ loved the church. And I didn't realize that Christ loved the church so much that he died for the church. And so before I even got it
wasn't only that he died for the church, it was that he took on the sins of the church and died. So he took on something that was never his.
But hold on, let's slow down. We're going too fast.
Oh, sorry.
I had a hard time loving my neighbor.
Right.
I especially had a hard time loving my neighbor if I didn't like them. Okay, so already I'm at a deficit.
Yeah.
Okay. So now you're telling me that the guy who doesn't know how to love his neighbor because he's loving his neighbor the same way he's always been loved or the way he loves himself, you're telling me to love my wife as Christ loved the church? Bro, there's levels to this.
I think that it's hard.
Well, it is hard if you don't know how to love. Like if I don't know how to love my neighbor, this is going to be extremely hard. But back to what I was saying. Where does marriage become easy? Well, it becomes easy when you have begin to realize that there's levels to this. And before you sign up to love someone as Christ loved the church, you need to start with loving yourself.
Can I offer?
And then loving your neighbor, the mean neighbor. I'm not talking about the one that's easy to like. The one on the other side of you that always has their music up, who has parties every weekend, who never invites you to the parties. Not that I've never had this neighbor. Okay, so I just want to make sure.
Our neighbors, we're not talking about you.
Yeah, we're not talking about our neighbors. But the neighbor that is extremely hard to love, finding a way not just to love them, but to pray for them. Now, when I begin to do that, I'm stepping into a space where if I can pray for the neighbor I don't like, then God is beginning to transform my heart to be able to love a person who he has given me in a way that is a heart of like, and I thought about this the other day because I started doing it and I was like, I'm going to start this morning off serving them. I'm going to serve the beauties, the ladies in my life. I'm going to serve my wife. I'm going to bring her breakfast. I'm going to serve my daughter. I'm going to bring her breakfast. I know. And that wasn't something that I was like trying to score points or anything like that. But it was me realizing there are moments where I have moments. They're not always, don't happen often, where I have moments where I'm like, I'm called to serve. Yeah. And love sometimes looks like serving. No, not sometimes. Love always. Love is serving. Love looks like serving others, and it does not always my wife. It's not always, but it's all of this that I'm talking about that gets to like, oh, is marriage easy? Yeah, it starts with me though.
Can I ask a question though? Is it really easy or is it just worthwhile? Is it so much that it's easy, or is it that? Or is it that it's easy when you're not doing it in your own strength? When I'm not leaning on myself to figure it out. I don't know, because I do.
That's fair.
I think to say that it's not hard because I love you.
Yeah, no.
I think that's an oversimplification because it's hard to love you sometimes. It's hard to love me sometimes. It's hard to love.
Come on, like, that's fair.
And so
yeah.
I think to say that it's easy is too oversimplifying it. I think when it is hard, it's still worthwhile.
That's a good point.
And so it makes it's like the idea of like, I mean, I keep using working out, but like even like working out, like it's hard, but the results are worthwhile when I start to see results.
Yeah.
Or I mean, there's a million other examples I'm sure we could use. I think the same can go true for a relationship and or a marriage, more specifically a marriage. Is it that it's not hard, or it's that when it's hard, I know that it's worthwhile, and so it makes it easier because I know it's worthwhile.
Yeah.
I think it's really, really hard when it's like, what am I doing this for?
Yeah.
There is nothing that's going to come from this.
Yeah.
Or do you see what I'm saying? Like,
I get you.
I think it's hard. And that's why I'm always like, this conversation is so nuanced for me. It's hard, but maybe it's just that in the hard, it becomes easy because it is worthwhile.
Well, you know what? It was funny because I like to give different perspectives, even if, and so me saying that like, is marriage hard? Well, no, because I know that there are people who are going to believe that like, no, marriage is not hard. Marriage is very easy. And I could sit back and say, well, if you think it's that easy, then maybe you are missing something. But maybe they know, like once again, I think the beauty of all these conversations that me and you have is us just kind of filtering through our thoughts. Now, I always love to open it up to other people because I want to know the thoughts of the people who are like, this is really easy for me.
I also think we hear more about the really, really hard marriages than we do about.
Because the people who is so easy for, they don't really talk.
But I don't know. But I don't think I have never met someone who is who they would proclaim is in a healthy marriage. I mean, I guess you could say, well, are they really healthy? I don't know. But let's just, for the sake of this argument, in a healthy marriage, I don't think they would say it was easy.
Yeah, that's fair.
I do think they would say it's worthwhile.
Yeah.
Like,
once again, I like I said, I don't ever want to. I don't want to end this in a dead end of like it's hard. So we've decided that it's hard. I think that it's fair to leave this conversation in a way to where it's like, okay, for us, I think we would both agree that this has been hard. We have the track record, we have the scars and the receipts to show that this was hard. And
yeah, but
I wish, and even after all that, I don't think it's like, oh, and it's gotten easier. No, I think
it's a different hard.
Yes, I think hard doesn't always look like, well, you make it hard for me. No, it could be life begin to life, and now it's made it hard for me, which in turn has made it hard for her, and vice versa. That goes both ways. And so I don't think we ever get like there are people right now who may be listening who have gone through the loss of a child.
Cannot imagine.
Losing a child makes marriage hard.
Yeah.
That wasn't something they did. It wasn't their plan. It wasn't but it happened. And so now marriage is extremely hard after going through that. And I empathize with people who have been through that, who have gone through that and not made it through because it was so hard to deal with that level of pain with another person or whatever the case. And I don't know. So I don't want to sit here and begin to believe or talk about that as if I know what that's like. I don't. But I do want to say that marriage is hard for different reasons. But I don't want to ever invalidate people who believe it's easy. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I don't
think it's an invalidation. I do think if anything, the conversation should lead to more curiosity about your partner's experience in your marriage.
Yeah.
I think, and hear me out, I don't mean to sound insensitive, but I don't care what everybody else's experience in their marriage is. Their marriage, how they've experienced their marriage, does not affect me.
You. Yeah.
And I don't mean that in like a selfish way. I more mean that adds no value. Unless it's like a, we went through this hard season. This is something that strengthened us.
Yeah.
Or this is something that we do that's made it easier or whatever. Like advice is fine, but for someone to be like, well, no, my marriage is easy. Like that adds no value to me.
I get you.
And
yes, I get what you're saying.
Like, and so I think when we're having this conversation or when anyone has this conversation, because like I said, this is a very, I've seen this conversation so many times with people like marriage is hard. That's literally how I hear it in my head every time.
Told you she's a boy. I'm telling you, and she has these weird voices, and they sound.
It's literally how they hear it, especially around men. Like, yeah, you can't ever make them happy, and whatever. We don't have to go down that road. But I say that to say, I think if anything, it is important. I think there is a lot of value. I'm not going to say it is important. I think there's a lot of value in finding out your experience and answering the experience. Okay, is marriage hard for me? And being curious to know, is it hard? Or even is it hard for you? If let's say you're unmarried, going to your mom and your dad who you watched marriage, and I know people. I have a friend at work who's like, my life was like roses growing up. Like she's like, she's like, while that was great, I was sorely unprepared for where life would lead me. And so even if it's that's the situation, right? You experienced a great marriage with your parents, and maybe going to them and be like, well, is marriage hard? Like, was your marriage hard? I think the curiosity in preparing for marriage or being in a marriage and wanting to I think it grows in intimacy. I think it's a very intimate conversation. Because you might be surprised at what you view as easy is something that your partner views as hard, or what you view as hard, your partner may be like, I didn't even consider that a hard spot. It just is life. Or because my parents or whatever. I think it should lead to curiosity. The question of, is marriage hard? I think there's less of a right or wrong answer and more of, what's the answer in your marriage?
Yeah. Yeah. No,
is this marriage hard?
Yeah.
And some may say yes, but it's worth it. Like in the end, it's worth it. And some may say yes, and I actually don't know if I want to continue to do this. And that's a hard conversation, but I feel like we would rather know
for sure
than be surprised.
Have that conversation instead of finding out later on.
Yeah.
I didn't even know it was that hard for you. I didn't know you were struggling. For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. So literally the homework, I like to leave these episodes with like questions, reflection.
You would think
questions.
you were the teacher.
Yeah. The teacher?
Like I used to be the teacher. You would think you were the teacher.
Listen, I like to create space for curiosity, reflection, in other people. I think it's great to watch us do this. But I know how hard this has been to do. This would have been to do in past seasons. And so
I would say just 6 months ago, I think this would have been hard. 8 months ago. I mean, I think, I think it's not a.
So it's so once again, it goes back to a challenge of like, I'm challenging you to sit down, take a car ride, however, go to the park and ask the question with your guard down, realizing that whatever the person says, whatever your partner says, it's not an attack, it's an assessment. And the truth of the matter is, it's assessments, depending on when you ask and the season they're in and where they're at with it, has the opportunity for there to be growth, for there to be healing, for there to be for you to seek help. And go ahead.
I was just gonna say, even if someone has, maybe their marriage has ended, even maybe sitting back and answering, what made that marriage hard? I think it's easy to not move past, but it's easy to kind of point to that ending as hard, but like kind of assessing like what led up to that hard for you. It may not be a safe environment to ask the other person. So I would never encourage that, or like a safe situation or conversation. And I don't mean just physically, I just mean like emotionally and mentally. So that's not what I would encourage, but at least I would encourage just an internal reflection of like, hey, what made that marriage hard? And don't necessarily only leave it to like what they did, but also just like, were there circumstances? Were there inciting incidents? Were there, were there in-laws or whatever it is, right? Like, cause there could be a list of things. But I think like sometimes sitting back and asking ourselves is just as important as asking the other person. So I do think you should ask yourself first before asking another person or your partner. But even if people, like I said, are not married anymore, and maybe you're like, I don't ever want to do that again. Like that's how my mom was.
Those people.
Huh?
Yeah, I've spoken to those people.
And that's, no judgment at all on that. But even if that is, but like really assessing like what made that hard. I think that would be I think it could be a step towards even healing some of those hard parts.
Yeah. So you can show up in future relationships. All relationships aren't meant to be marriages, but I think that relationships with people, I think that sometimes the hardness of a marriage could have created the hardness to build community sometimes. And so, or
even hardness with your children, if there's children involved, or your I think
that's a good point.
There's a safety that you, from my experience through my mother, so I've not been divorced, but there's a safety that you lose, there is this whole life, this whole world you built that you lost, and that you have to grieve and all. And so there's a whole life that you planned for that will never come to fruition. And so I think sometimes it's important, like, and so having that kind of honest reflection with yourself, and I'm not saying it's going to be super fun, But it would maybe open some hard parts up in you, and not necessarily for a new marriage or a new, relationship or romantic relationship, but maybe in just the relationships around you, or even how you are able to show up.
Mm-hmm. So, with all that said, we don't have the answers, but
We have a lot of opinions.
Stole my thunder.
Sorry.
My camera. We don't have the answers.
You can't take me off the camera.
Sure enough can. Sure enough can. We don't have the answers. But what we do pose is some great conversation. And the truth of the matter is, at the end of the day, we want you to go find your answers. We want you to go start your conversations. We want you to realize that there's not always just an easy answer to everything, but the beauty of the conversations is the journey that's going to bring forth so much more than just a yes or no answer. Sometimes it's going to bring forth things that are going to allow you to say, oh, wow, I didn't even know that about you. Oh, wow, I didn't know that was something that how you saw me or how you envisioned me to not even be a leader. It's crazy.
So we're going to have some off camera conversations.
That's crazy. But hey, look, we're glad you guys joined us today. Don't forget before you get out of here, subscribe so you don't miss another one of these. Share this with somebody. You know that while you listen to this, you thought of somebody. Don't allow that thought to just be a side thought. Share this with them. There's a reason why they need to hear this as well. And then if you're up for it, if you enjoyed the conversation, go ahead and hit the like for us. You know what I'm saying? Let us know so that we can keep bringing you conversations like this. Honestly, as we were talking, I was thinking of some other conversations that we could bring forth that are similar to this, but are a bridge off of this. And it'll come back to me. But yeah, we're glad you're rocking with us. Thank you so much for continuing to join us here, and we will catch you on.
We love you and good night.
You see how she does that? We'll catch you on the next episode. Now, cue you.
We love you and good night. That's my favorite line.
Later, y'all.